Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Therapy. Minnie is joining me because she's positive. She's happy. Look at her face. Look at
I'm
that.
still happy. I'm still happy after
How can
all
you be
we've been
happy?
through.
How can you be happy?
Because there's a lot of positives that I'd like to focus on. Hey, we're
Okay,
3-1.
we are 3-1. Okay, fine. We're 3-1. Yeah, we're 3-1. All right. First of all, I had a good weekend in my, I went back to my hometown of Curtis, Nebraska. Had an all-school reunion. There was, a lot of people there that I hadn't seen for many, many, many years. And you know what happened? You know what happened, Minnie?
Your memories started coming back?
Well, they did. You know what? I went to my hometown and I have memories of myself as an angel, helping old women across the street, baking various goods for bake sales or things like that. All sorts of stuff like that. And really what people told me is that I wasn't an angel at all. Uh, you know, I,
I'm
I
not
was,
surprised to hear
I was
that.
reminded of many things that I did.
But the statute of limitations is up, so you can go
That's
back.
true, but we just still didn't bring a lot of things up. That we were in hushed circles when we talked about some things. Like, for example, one night when I had the sense that a couple of friends of mine were going to do something nefarious. So my friend and I, Dale and I, decided we did not want any part of this. So we got into bed together for the rest of the night. And we were right, because the next day, the day after, I think it was, somewhere in there, the police came to me and they said, "John, we would like to talk to you." And they took me downtown to the police station and they said, "Where were you last night?" And I said, "I was in bed with Dale all night." And then Dale tells me later that they took him downtown and they were questioning him. And they said, "Where were you all night last night?" And he said, "I was in bed with John Johnston all night." So he had the perfect alibi. This is actually a true story. We should move on. Okay. You know what? Our Purdue guy is here early. I wonder if should we go ahead and start talking about Purdue?
Yeah, just real quick though. Tiger Shark Diver says back when John's hair was blonde.
It was brown at one point. It was never
brown?
Yeah.
Well, it's a nice silvery white now.
It was, maybe I could pull up a picture of me sometime when I'm 18. Drew is here. Should we go ahead with Purdue first?
Okay.
I'm going to bring Drew Schneider is joining us. He is I have a bio for him. Drew Schneider joins us, co-manager of Hammer and Rails, which is the SB Nation Purdue site, contributor for Bring on the Cats, which is a K-State site, and he also contributes to Shaking the Southland, and he's an all-around great guy. Shaking the Southland is Clemson, isn't it, Drew?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're all over the place. You're also squeezed up on my screen, so we'll see how things happen. I was going to have you come in at 8:30, but you got here early, so we might as well start with you.
I was just listening backstage for a while, seeing what y'all were up to.
I was gonna start bitching about the Illinois game, but I'll leave that for later. So what is going on with Purdue football? It doesn't look like you guys are. Well, to be honest with you, it doesn't look like you guys are very good.
Yeah, we're starting to kind of see the dark side of the transfer portal here, where we've got a lot of guys that maybe have a lot of talent but haven't played a lot of football, and now they're having to play football, and it's didn't really have much of a run up. We started with Indiana State, and that's like playing a high school team, and then they found out real fast what college football was about when they ran
into Notre Dame.
Real quick, I'm sorry to interject here. Drew, it looks like you're a little bit frozen.
Yes, I'm not sure why my internet has decided not to work right now.
Okay, well, we're just going to go with it then.
Tell you what, why don't y'all talk a little bit about how much you hate Illinois, and I'll get that fixed up real quick.
Okay, come back minutes, and we'll get all the anger out of us.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, back to Illinois. Those bastards.
Yes.
I do have to say, Minnie, did you watch my reaction videos?
I watched both of them. I watched the after the game one where you stepped outside and it was a dark, stormy night in Nebraska. And then I watched the morning after, and it seemed to me like you may have pulled an all-nighter.
Why is that?
You just seemed like you just had a great time, maybe. I don't know. Am I
Oh, I
wrong?
did. You know what? I actually watched the game in one of my hometown bars, the Yellow Rose, and it was a good time. Although I couldn't hear what the announcers were saying, there was a lot of screaming. My wife had 3 Jello shots, and then they ran out of Jello shots. And honestly, I
Oh
think that's
my
why
goodness.
Nebraska didn't score. Toward the end of the game, is they ran out of freaking Jello shots, and what the hell? What the hell was that about? But
Yeah.
okay, Illinois, you have some positives. Give me a positive. We're
I
3-1.
do.
That's a positive. People seem to be
I
like
do.
people seem to be losing their minds about this game.
I know, they are. They certainly are. I think the most positive thing I can say that I brought from the game, and I think everybody will agree if you think about it, is our offensive line, we actually have a lot of depth and experience. I mean, that was so great to see. I felt like, we didn't see Mazuka on the offensive line. But we did, and we also have an injured offensive lineman in Turner Corcoran. But,
Yes.
we are able to fill those spots, and these guys, it wasn't a problem. So I thought that was a wonderful thing to see.
It was kind of a problem. I
Okay,
mean,
but
in
it's only
overtime, they did that twist thing, and the whole line, the whole offensive line exploded, and then Dylan Royola got turned into a pancake. That was kind of, there weren't. I would say, if by the way, Haas and Greg, they do this breakdown called CornNation
yeah,
Overreaction. Haas is very good at this. He understands football better than 98% of us. I'd recommend you watch
mhm,
that. He did say that, I think, and he was right. Nebraska got outmanned in both the offensive and defensive trenches, and I
yeah,
think that was probably the biggest disappointment of this game for me, is that we didn't really, our offensive line didn't have a lot of push. Uh, we didn't, people will say we didn't have much of a running game, but, Illinois loaded up the box, and Illinois was not going to allow us to run the ball. So put it this way,
mhm,
when you look at how the games are going with this offense under Marcus Satterfield, uh, if they're going to try to run the ball, it's probably because the defensive alignment is such that they feel they're going to be successful running the ball. If you're not running the ball, normally it's because they're loading a box or they're in a defensive alignment that isn't allowing you to run the ball that well. And Haas did
mhm,
point out that our run game isn't very creative, and he'd like to see it be more creative. I probably have to agree with him, but it's not, you don't just walk up and say we're going to establish the run game and it just happens. It doesn't matter if if you had the 94 offensive line, maybe that would happen, but probably
yeah.
not, because everybody is even on both sides of the ball typically anymore. uh that's the thing about run the ball. Okay, go ahead with another positive. Gosh, excuse me.
Well, before I talk about some positives, um, James Boardman wants to know, no outhouse video from Curtis?
what what does that mean? That you just assume there's outhouses out in Curtis? What the hell? They have bathrooms. Stockville, Nebraska is the county seat of Frontier County, and it was the last county seat in the nation to get indoor plumbing in 1962. Not a made up story,
Oh my
but
god,
everybody else I think had indoor plumbing. Plus, I
that's
wanted to
too
show
bad.
off, my hometown in the background, and where we used to drag Main Street, and then the cornfield. I mean, I was at a cornfield, for God's sakes. And the
That was classic. I love that. Well, Vince Watson says, "Piss poor preparation, running out of Jello shots."
I don't think they
And then
expected that many people there that wanted Jello shots. I think that was the key.
Nashville
Mm.
Husker says, "Jello shortage in Curtis." Laugh out loud.
I
I
didn't have any. I just screamed a lot.
Wow. That just sounds like a ball, though, you know?
There was a lot
Yeah,
of
it
yelling.
sounds like you guys had a great time.
It was
Mhm.
until the end, and then there was a lot of, the yelling turned from joyful yelling to let's burn something down yelling, which is kind of almost the same, but it's a little shrieky when you get to burn down stuff. Okay, give me another positive since you're Miss.
Okay. Ja it well, Jamal Banks. Finally, finally, we got to see what that kid is made of. He doesn't drop balls. He is what all the hype made him out to be. I'm so excited to have him on our team. And
Jamal.
he is so well spoken. When he said in the press conference after the game, I thought it was the most mature statement I've ever heard a football player say because, somebody asked him about how he felt about how he how he did, and he said, "It's the same as your job, only mine is under a magnifying glass a little bit." He goes, "You have a job holding the video camera, and I have a job, catching the football. If I don't do that well, then I need to do better." And I just thought, wow, it was so refreshing to hear.
Okay, give me one more positive, and then I'm gonna just go blister for a while.
No,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, I am. I am. Two things that really bothered me about this game. Really
Okay.
a
Well,
lot.
uh, I know
Go ahead.
what you're gonna say. I mean,
No,
when I
no,
was
you don't.
watching the game,
No.
I felt that frustration too. But when, like you woke up the next morning from the cornfield, rose out of the cornfield, I like to stick with that feeling and try and pull as many positives as we absolutely can out of it. Um, I mean, Dylan Raiola, obviously,
Well, that's
he's
true.
the biggest highlight of the entire game. He's just so um he learns things so quick and he can take over and rearrange things so quickly. And I'm so glad that he's going to be leading our team
He
to
is.
championships.
He
So,
is.
yeah.
I'll bring up what I said in the post game. He showed that he was a freshman quarterback. There were a lot of people that complained about our offensive
Mhm.
line not providing protection. The ball has to come out faster. You can't stand back there going through your progressions and wait. And then he realized like I also said, he has now found out what it's like to try to escape Big Ten defenders. He can't do the same kind of like twist his hips and just shuffle out of the way like you did in high school and against the crappy teams we played so far. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. I'm
Mm,
going to give you
I'm
two
writing
red
it down.
flags. Two red flags that
Okay.
really bothered me about this game. These are strategic things. Okay. So
Okay.
that if Matt Rule doesn't work out in 3 years, and I hope that never happens, but these are two things that I take from this game that really just stick with me and bug me. And that is, first of all, kicking the field goal. Kicking the field goal to go ahead, try to go ahead. Why do you why? Why do you kick the field
I
goal?
know.
Why did
I
you even
know.
try? It's not even, see, the difference between strategic and tactical coaching decisions is this. They have to do with the mentality of what you're trying to accomplish. You can look at it and say, well, we had a guy kicking his first field goal ever, or holding hasn't been the best. You can put it into a game situation. My problem isn't that our field goal kicking and our fucking special teams are shit. My problem is that you made that decision. Okay? You said that we're going to be aggressive. You said that with the whole chasing three
Yes.
thing. Well, that's not aggressive. That's putting your whole fucking game in the foot of a guy that's never kicked a field goal. It's a mentality issue. I just don't understand it. especially when you do have Dylan Raiola. You have giant freaking wide receivers, and they got open most of the game, and you were able to complete the ball. What was it, 4th and 3, 4th and 4? They're kicking the field goal there shouldn't even have been like, well, let's
Shouldn't have
try
been enough.
something easy or something. I don't know. That really bugged me a lot. Do you get the idea? It bugged me a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I understand that. And I definitely get it, especially because we have John Hull, who is not our normal kicker, right? Yes, he did make his field goals before that, but that's a lot of pressure.
It is.
But
It is.
yeah,
And like I said,
no, I
that's
get
still
it.
tactical. The idea that you have a new kicker, it's the idea that you're
Mhm.
not being aggressive. And you know what? If you want to see who else is not being aggressive, look at PJ Fleck in Minnesota. He doesn't have long for Minnesota because they're really sick of his offense that does nothing. They were ahead at Iowa at the halftime, and then they got my ass. Then they got their asses kicked.
Yeah,
Let's take
it's
this.
another one.
Terry Sutton, John, you ripped my ass 2 weeks ago when I said the Huskers will lose 2 games by a field goal. Your reply, what 2 games are you talking about? Here's the thing.
Mm.
I didn't think they would go. Here's the thing. I didn't think that we would just try field goals. I think the easiest way to not worry about your special teams is to score freaking touchdowns.
Yeah.
And you're right, Terry, that they will lose games because of field goals, because you do have to do those at sometimes. I just think at that point in the game, your defense is not playing well. If you wanted to look at the tactical aspects of it, your defense is not playing well. Do you remember how much time was left in the game when we kicked the field goal?
What was it? 30 seconds, 38 seconds, something?
No, I don't think so. When we tried the field goal, they got the ball back and we stopped them. All right, let's go. Let me pull something up here.
Yeah. Do. All
Say
right.
something
In the
positive.
meantime,
Or take some comments while I look for something. I had it pulled up here and then it went
okay.
away.
All right. Rick Novak says Illinois controlling both lines of scrimmage worries me for Big Ten play. They did.
They
But,
did.
you know, one thing about Illinois, I mean, you got to give Bilima credit. He is a
You
heck
do.
of a coach. He's
Well, I
turned a
think a
lot
lot
of
of
2
people
and
would
3
say
star.
I think that a lot of people would say no, he's not, but I think they're wrong. I think he is a pretty
They're
decent
wrong.
coach.
He's turned a lot of 2 and 3
Good.
star players into looking like they're 5-star players.
I
That's
thought
pretty
you know
good.
what? Okay, here it is. I thought I had the drive charts up here. Anyway, the problem with kicking a field goal in that case is you really haven't stopped Illinois. Okay, your defense is
3:21.
playing poorly. Your defense, you played decent in the first half. You know, Nebraska had a lead, and then in the second half, they just started fading. You know, kind of like, I won't make a reference, but they faded a lot, and I thought I had you know what? I did have the drives charts up here because I wanted to point that out. That their drives, they sustained drives. That was probably the biggest thing, that other tactical thing that bothered me during the game.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've seen exactly zero people talk about is this, and I'm going to try to maintain my blood pressure so I don't collapse.
Okay.
There are 26
Breathe.
seconds left in the fucking game. There's 26 seconds
Oh.
left in the game. There are 26 seconds left in the game, and you decide to take a knee. Don't give me this shit about chasing 3 when you still have time left on the clock. I told everyone in the bar that we were at, if we go to overtime, we're losing. And we went to overtime and we lost. It should have been apparent to everybody on the planet that if that game went to overtime, we were going to lose it. You have 26 seconds left. You have Dylan Raiola, young phenom. You have Jalen Lloyd, speedster. And I hate to make this comparison. It's not completely fair, but if you watch Colorado football, Those sons of bitches are always trying to score on every single play. They may be psychotic, they may be dysfunctional, they may be not anything what we want to be, but they are trying to score on literally every play they run. And we got 26 seconds left and we take a knee. You want to know why we blow up in overtime? It's because all your chasing three stuff is bullshit if that's the decision you're going to make. You're going to basically say, well, we're going to chase three most of the time, but right now we're just going to take it easy and try things in overtime. Again, it's lack of aggression. It's lack of what the hell were you thinking? You had 26 seconds. I know they didn't have any timeouts left because they might be too ragey on that.
No. Flies goodbye. I mean, most people are here saying, yeah,
I don't like Jimmy Johnson. I'd never cared for him when he was Miami. I thought he let his teams get out of control too much. I sure as hell didn't like him with the Dallas Cowboys. But he did say something during one of the NFL shows is that, every second on the clock, every second that's on the clock, you should be trying to score. Well, there was 26 seconds we just took and threw away. And why did we do that? And I have seen nobody, I haven't seen any comment from Matt Rule about it. I haven't seen anybody ask him about it that I know of. If I was in the press conference, blah, 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 my voice is going. I would have asked him, why did you take a knee? What are you, scared? You a wiener? There are all sorts of words I could use here. Okay.
Oh, jeez. Do you feel better?
Yeah, no, I don't. This is the Monday night therapy. That's not therapy part of Monday night therapy.
Okay.
I would like an explanation. I'd like somebody in the comments to say, why is it a good idea when you have an explosive passing offense? You have giant receivers. You could just throw the ball. We know Nair and Banks are breakaway speed guys, but we have other guys that are breakaway speed guys. Okay.
Okay, John, you're getting all worked up, and Charles Hollett says you're out here doing Grover impersonations. Grover from Sesame Street?
Yes, I am. It's just when teams do that, or you play for the field goal or you put it in the foot of a kicker. I just think that those are the worst decisions that you can make. And I almost feel like you make those decisions, the coaches, in thinking, I think some coaches actually think, well, they won't blame me. They'll blame the kicker. And I don't think Matt Rule is that guy.
No,
I don't. But I really would like to know what was going through his head when he said, oh, just take a knee and let's go to overtime.
Okay.
You could have even driven down the field a little ways and let your kicker try it again. But you didn't. You just kneeled. Okay.
All right. Per your request, Vince Watson says they took a knee because they were on the 6 or 8 yard line. Wherever it was a sack leads to a safety more than likely.
Or it could lead to a 98 yards touchdown. What do you want? You want to just, we saw what happened when they played it safe. They just blew up in overtime. I mean, I don't think they were at the 6 or 8, but again, I was watching it on TV. Okay, they were at the 5, kneeled down by Nebraska at the Nebraska 5 for a loss of 2 yards. I'm still going there. I don't care.
Brutal.
You got 26 seconds. You got Jalen Lloyd. That guy can run. That guy can outrun 90% of college football. 26 seconds, you throw. Good. You know what you do? You do one out pattern to Jamal Banks. You're at the 25-yard line. And you probably spent 6-7 seconds. You do the next play. You do another out pattern, gain 20 yards. Another 6 or 7 seconds. What are you down? Now you're down to like 10 or 12 seconds. And then you just you just take the lid off and just say, all go. 4 verts, man. I guess maybe I would be the worst football coach ever because I'd be like, we're going for everything. I'd be like one of them guys that never punts. By the way,
Yeah,
do you know how many
you don't
punts
play it
Illinois
safe.
had in this game?
Like 1, 2, what?
One.
Oh,
We forced one freaking punt.
that's unbelievable.
Okay.
Okay, you know who's back with us?
Drew is back. I know that. He's listening. He
Okay.
is laughing. He's probably like, oh my God, this guy's going to have a stroke. We won't even talk about Purdue because he'll be on the floor. Okay. Say something positive, and then we'll bring Drew on.
Another positive. Okay. Well, we will learn from all of these mistakes and clean them up by Saturday. There's lots to improve on.
I think the thing is I do think that we're going a little over deep end with, oh my God, this whole thing is falling apart and the defense is terrible and everything. I think our team will be fine. We will probably, not win. We'll probably be maybe 8-4. I don't see Purdue beating us, but let's go ahead and bring Drew back on. Drew!
Yes.
Do you want me to yell at you?
Please.
What the hell is going on at Purdue?
I don't know. We can't get out of our own way. I have, unlike Purdue, I have adjusted and I'm downstairs in my living room closer to the router, so I'm not going to freeze every 10 seconds. And so Purdue is just a lot of guys that haven't played a lot of football, and they're getting their first real big taste of it right now.
So do we? Okay, let's start with Ryan Walters. Do you think Ryan Walters is a good coach? We'll just start with the hard-hitting ones right out of the gate.
And I'm going to start with the lamest answer ever. I have no idea if Ryan Walters is a good coach yet or not. He hasn't had a lot to work with talent-wise, and he's basically starting over the whole roster in year 2. So, it's kind of tough to get a read on him right now.
So, okay. I know that when you guys compare somebody to Daryl Hazel, it's not a good comparison. And I've seen, I haven't paid close attention to Purdue because I was still, even up until we started the show tonight, I was still like, screaming at my wall.
My gosh.
There were 26 seconds left. Okay, anyway. But, I know when you guys compare people to Daryl Hazel that it's not a good comparison. Is recruiting going poorly? Is your NIL program good?
So
is it just all really just inexperience?
I would not listen to the people talking about Daryl Hazel. If you look at Ryan Walters' resume in his second year at Purdue, it's a lot closer to Jeff Brom than Daryl Hazel. Just keep in mind, Brom was 0-3 starting year 2, and so and he won one more game than Walters did, where it was the first year where Hazel won 1 game, and Walters won 5 and Brom won 6. So I think right now you're just it's an experience. A lot of Purdue's mistakes have just been stuff where guys haven't been on the field. I really feel like that Notre Dame game was a lot of guys getting hit for the first time in like a real college game and going, whoa, this is not Indiana State. Hold on. And by the time they sort of figured out what happened, it was all over but the shouting. And so the Oregon State game gave us a little bit more hope. I don't know if you've seen any of that game.
I didn't. I was at an event commiserating decades ago of my life. That's what I was doing.
So Purdue ran into some pretty terrible luck in this Oregon State game. The first touchdown was a pick six. You got to look at the highlight. Hudson Card threw the ball behind Purdue's receiver on a swing pass. It hit the
I saw
receiver
that.
in the heel, bounced up, and for like you couldn't do that if you tried. If you said, Hudson Card, I'm going to give you 100 opportunities to drill this guy in the heel with the ball and have it bounce perfectly. You could like, and that's the worst thing you can do against Oregon State because all they want to do is run the ball and run the clock. And as soon when you get behind, they just put you in a choker, a sleeper hold, and it's all over. You can't do much. They just have the ball all game.
Now, last week on this show, I took people through collegefootballstats.com and we looked at stats, and I told everybody that there's only one stat that matters on both defense and offense, and that is scoring defense and scoring offense. All the other ones are symptoms of those two things. Right now, do you know where Purdue is in scoring defense?
I don't. I could imagine it's not great, and it's probably still being skewed by that Indiana State game. So if they're taking that game into consideration, bad. If they don't, then probably the worst.
It's not the worst. It's you're 119th
Okay.
in scoring defense. So let's see. You've got Utah State. There's Wyoming's below you. Western Michigan, Jacksonville State, teams that are not Big Ten teams. So, yes, you're 119th with giving up 34.7 points a game. Just so people want to know, again, I saw a lot of people where Nebraska is not a top 25 defense. Nebraska's defense is terrible. Nebraska was, I think, last week around 7th or 8th, weren't we? Because of Illinois, they're different than Indiana. We have dropped to 18th, tied for 18th with BYU and California. So in scoring defense terms, Nebraska is still in fairly good shape. Now, scoring offense, where do you think Purdue is there?
Well, I mean, we scored 28 points over 2 games, so I'm going to say also not very great. In somewhere between, I don't know, 100 and 120.
You're 92nd.
Oh,
so
well,
hey,
that's what I get for being pessimistic.
You know what? Who you're ahead of? I mean, who you're ahead of that counts?
Florida State.
You're right. Not Michigan State is 93rd. Michigan is 97th. And if people want to worry about an upcoming, Northwestern is 119th. Wisconsin is 109th. So, out of Big Ten teams, UCLA is 124th. So in terms of Big Ten teams being able to score, you are not as in bad a shape as you thought you were.
Yeah, no, and the Oregon State game was, we had our opportunities, and I think the offense, it's just so hard to talk about the offense because Notre Dame, the offensive line was just overmatched. Like Hudson Card could not do anything.
Right.
So I almost write that game off. I feel like the Oregon State game is a better probably representation of what the Nebraska game is going to look like. And the offensive line held up, but they just weren't on the field. Oregon State, let me just go through like the drive summary real quick of that game to start with. So, they had this kind of right after that interception, Purdue goes 3 and out, and then Oregon State runs 12 plays, and then holds on to the ball for 7 minutes and 34 seconds, and then Purdue gets the ball and runs 10 plays, and finishes up on downs. And that's just sort of how that game went. It was just Oregon State had the ball all game, and it felt like Purdue, the one time Purdue held it for more than single-digit plays, it ended just couldn't punch it into the end zone. And so it's tough when your defense is just on the field the entire game. And it felt like Purdue really gassed there in the second half on defense. And that's when Oregon State's run game really started gashing them. But I mean, if you look at, it was a 10-point game, into the third quarter, 7-17, and 7 of those points came off a back heel from a Purdue receiver. So it wasn't like Oregon State came and just ran Purdue out of the building. It was, I'd say that a pretty even game for as lopsided as the final score is. That's sort of a problem.
38-21, Oregon State over Purdue, right?
Right.
Okay. According to the official game book, Oregon State had the ball for 40 minutes and 15 seconds. In the first quarter, you only had the ball for 2 minutes and 19 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of getting time of possession into the ground. So,
yeah. It's funny because Oregon State almost did that against Oregon in the week before. In the first half, I think Oregon touched the ball twice, and it was I think they maybe had like a 10-point. Oregon had maybe like a 10-point lead, but then Oregon figured out how to get some stops on defense, and once their offense got on the field, they sort of ran Oregon State off, and just what Purdue couldn't do. They just couldn't get off the field on defense, and then they couldn't stay on the field long enough on offense to get any sort of rhythm going.
We need to take some comments really big before they get stale.
Well, I want to really quick just get a little bit of point of reference. So Purdue has played 3 games total, right?
Mm-hmm, correct.
And they're 1
and 2.
1 win and 2 losses. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
And
how
many
home
games have they had?
So 1 or 2. And keep in mind, their one win was against Indiana State, which is one of the worst FCS programs. Like, they're not like going to like North Dakota and playing in the Dome. It's like playing a high school team almost. No offense to those guys, but they don't win a lot in FCS either. And so it was that game. Everybody kind of felt good about it. Oh, look, we threw the ball and ran the ball and stopped them. And then first 5 minutes of the Notre Dame game, you could almost see the guys, especially the new guys, going, "Oh, wow!" Angry Notre Dame tried to tackle Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard just threw one of our defensive backs on the ground like a small child. And I feel like that sort of set the tone for the rest of that game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for
answering.
answering.
I'm going to run through these. Some of these are you can chime in on the Illinois game. Did you watch the Nebraska-Illinois game? Drew?
Just a little bit. I've got, with so many, I've got the K-State game on, or that was the late game, and then the Clemson game. So I sort of surf around, but I got a lot of obligations on Saturday. It's a tough life.
Okay, Highlander gun feels like a gun punch, but I kept telling myself this is an opportunity to identify and fix the problems. Overall, they played down to the wire with a ranked team. Can't give up. It was a good game. It was a fun game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was just a casual football fan, I would have turned that on and went, okay, this was, it was hard hitting. It was full of, tension back and forth until the overtime happened. But it was a good game. And I guess for that reason, even though I'm screaming a lot, I don't feel like the bottom's falling out of anything. I like that. Linda Wilkins asked, how was Curtis? How many bars are now closed from when you grew up? 5 have closed in Geneva since we grew up there. I think there's still always been 2 bars in Curtis, and there still is 2 bars in Curtis. So I'm sure the owners have come and gone many times over the years, but if you get thrown out of one bar, you got another bar to go to that's only a block away. So apparently this frequently happens, according to people that I know that live there.
That's funny.
We'll just move on from that. Okay. Joe Liliakis says misdirection plays are a mediocre offensive line's best friend, and our offensive coordinator keeps on failing to realize it. Talk about hitting the nail on the head. you run misdirection plays to get a defense out of position so you can leverage them, right? And Illinois ran some really good misdirection plays. You get the linebackers, you get the defensive line stepping in the wrong direction, and it's easier to push them in that direction so your guy can cut back in the other direction. And I love misdirection stuff. If I ran an offense, it would be 60% misdirecting everything all over the place. Because I would just be the biggest bastard I could be like that. And he's right. Marcus Satterfield doesn't seem to have any of that stuff. I'd run some counters for God's sake. Look at this. David Matney says everyone in the entire fucking stadium knew he was going to miss that kick. You know what's amazing about that comment, Minnie?
What?
David Matney is swearing. David Matney is the nicest guy in the play. He is swearing. He's swearing.
I didn't even realize that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, I'm just so like immune to it now. Being around you guys, it just is like I didn't even catch the swear word, but you're right.
Miles goodbye says everybody in the building is to blame for that loss. That's true. Okay, we'll take a couple more. Wait, there's a Purdue one. Bill Spears says Purdue gets to face two teams fresh off of upsets. Sounds like Nebraska's luck. Wait, what do you think? I mean, Notre Dame kind of wanted to make a point, and they kind of did.
Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame came out very angry and took care of. It was ugly. It was one of those games where you just kind of just throw that away. And then the Oregon State again. They went across the country and they fumbled. They got the ball inside the 10-yard line in the first drive, fumbled. And then so they had two just terrible turnovers in the first quarter, and got behind Oregon State. But I feel like I said, the Oregon State game was maybe closer than the scoreboard indicated. But Purdue's going to be desperate.
Yeah. That's interesting that you say that, because we heard how good Oregon State was before the season started. And when I flew to Lincoln, Nebraska, I actually sat next to one of the photographers he works for Oregon State. And he's like, we're not as good as people think. So that's interesting that you said that.
Yeah, they're good in a very specific way that if they can just put together like 12 to 15 play drives all game, then they're really good. But if their offense can't do that, then they're not very good. So they're not a team that's going to say get in a shootout with Oregon and win. They really have to kind of control the game, control the clock, and control the scoreboard, which is what they did against Purdue. So good for them.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Well, although I just got to hold on. I need to say something real quick because I was laughing. I forgot y'all's offensive coordinator with Marcus Satterfield. That is hilarious. I've said so many terrible things about him before.
Why is that?
He was South Carolina's offensive coordinator, and he was absolutely awful. And we were very sad to see him go.
Okay,
you sound like it.
Give us more on that, because there's a lot of people that are. My position on this is almost nobody likes their offensive coordinators.
That's true. Just from South Carolina, from just listening to, both my sisters went to South Carolina, so I get to hear all the South Carolina griping. And his name was mentioned quite a bit. They couldn't settle on a quarterback. It never looked good while he was there. And like I said, I don't think South Carolina fans were necessarily sad to see him go to Nebraska.
I think I did see people blaming him for the loss, and I kept wondering, okay, what did he do wrong? I'm not exactly thrilled with his run offense, but I think that Nebraska's offense in the game against Illinois wasn't as big a problem. That's the thing, is we thought our defense would carry us through all these things, and our defense was the problem Friday night. Well, our offense probably did pretty well. I mean, they had some gaffes. We should have had a touchdown in the end zone that was apparently ruled an interception, which I thought was weird. I thought the ball hit the ground, but and there were a couple of things that went awry, but I think overall he called a fairly good game. But like I said, nobody likes their offensive coordinators, and
no, and
they
especially
had
South Carolina, they're notorious for not enjoying theirs. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the South Carolina consensus is a good judgment of Marcus. But I do, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh man, I've just heard so many people say so many terrible things about that man. A lot of times if we didn't have Marcus Satterfield, we're playing Clemson and we have Marcus Satterfield calling plays. What do you want us to do?
Well, let's go into that for Purdue. What does Purdue want to do on offense? I mean, if this was a perfect game,
interestingly enough, they found something against Oregon State that they didn't find against Notre Dame, but they did really well last year, and they ran the ball really well, and their run game really sort of turned into just almost all exclusively just running outside zone plays, sort of stretching that line of scrimmage, and then having Devin Maccabee sort of either pick the B gap or cut out to the C gap behind the tackle, and and Reggie Love is the same thing. So the run game looked really good against Oregon State. The pass game, right now, going into this season, we're down the guy we thought would be wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So we're down to, our third wide receiver is basically our first wide receiver now. And it wasn't a very deep group to start with. So like Leland Smith is playing a lot, and he's like fresh out of JUCO. Like we got him late, and after the first game, he scored a touchdown, and the coaching staff was like, he knows 1 or 2 routes, but he's good at those 1 or 2 routes, which is cool if you just need him for 1 or 2 routes. But when he's playing the majority of the game, it gets a little tricky on the passing. So I think the run game is where it's going to be against Nebraska until some of these weapons come back.
Devin Maccabee had 16 carries for 172 yards, 4 touchdowns. Or wait, no, 1 touchdown. Long as 63. Long as 63, averaged 10.5 yards a carry. That's pretty damn good.
And the backup.
Reggie Love the third had 10 carries for 67 yards, 6.6 yards per carry. Those are both pretty good totals. So, and then Hudson Card was 7 of 17 for 56 yards with a long of 32. So, holy cow, you had to work at not making any yardage in the passing game.
Yeah, like I said, we're down to just like nobody on our wide receivers. We went out and spent a lot of money on CJ Smith out of Georgia from NIL. He was one of our top NIL picks. He pulled a hamstring last week of camp. Haven't seen him yet. He was a 4-star guy with one of the like 100 and 200 in like Florida as a high school senior, and haven't seen him. We are getting our other 5-star guy back from Georgia, though. We went out and got a 5-star corner, Nyland Green. He'll be coming back, so it'll be nice to see. So Purdue went out and did a lot of stuff in the NIL, like y'all maybe were asking about, but their 3 biggest guys have been injured. You haven't seen them. 2 of them you haven't seen, and then the left tackle Corey Stewart is like playing on 1 leg. So super frustrating. I spent all off season like gassing these guys up. I'm like, oh man, Smith and Nyland and more. There's going to be so much talent on the field, and they haven't played yet at all. So we got Nyland's going to be the top or DB1. He'll lock up your best receiver. He was a top 20 recruit coming out of high school. We went to from Georgia and just kind of got caught in that Georgia. We've got a lot of other 5-star recruits sort of things. And
Yeah.
so he transferred to Purdue, and like we were sort of taking a lot on him playing. He's a real physical guy, especially on the edges as a corner. And yeah, it'll be hopefully we'll see him against Nebraska. It's been one of those where after the end of the Indiana State game, we had a bye, and they're like, "Oh, they'll be back." Nope, wasn't back for Notre Dame. Nope, wasn't back for Oregon State. So hopefully they will be back tonight or against y'all.
So you have two transfers from Georgia. Is that right?
Four
Is that what you're
four
saying?
transfers from we have 4 transfers from Georgia. Yeah.
On offense?
It was, let's see, 2 on offense, 2 on defense.
Okay.
Wow. And
it's pretty good.
But yeah, no, and like they weren't like kind of like the 3-star. They were legit 4-star guys with a lot of big offers coming out, and they just hadn't really played that much. We brought them in, and they still haven't played much. But that was sort of what Ryan Walters did this offseason, is they went out and got a lot of guys. They put more emphasis on just overall talent as opposed to guys that had maybe played a lot. And you definitely saw that against Notre Dame, where you had, I guess, 8 or 9 guys making their first real starts, and it was real ugly. Again, I think as far as the offense goes, it's going to be the run game. That was the run game last year too. The second half of the season, we abandoned the pass for the most part. It started running this outside zone with Tyrone Tracy and Devin Maccabee, and started winning some games. I think Purdue was one of the top rushing team in the second half of the Big Ten season last year, over Ohio State, over Michigan. They ran the ball really well. So that sort of picked up again. I think we sort of just gave up on passing for a while. So yeah, watch out for that outside zone run.
Okay, I'm going to take a comment. Quentin Beal says, "Do you think Tony White has been too conservative since the Colorado game with blitzes?" Okay, here's the thing with Nebraska's defense. Nebraska's defense this year switched their defensive secondary coverage to basically playing with quarters. And again, go back to the earlier video we put out on YouTube where Greg and Haas discuss this stuff, because Haas knows that he knows football a hell of a lot better than I do. But basically what's going on is they are changing the way that their defensive secondary, plays the defensive secondary from last year. And I think that when you're looking at, we haven't blitzed that much. Well, up until Illinois, we were getting pressure with 4 with Ty Robinson and the nut masher. I call Hutmacher the nut masher because I like to see him mash nuts, Drew. That's how it goes. But I think that they've probably been a little bit conservative with blitzes because they're still trying to make sure that their back 7 understands, or the back 8, I guess in this case, understands what they're supposed to be doing with coverage, and they haven't had to really do the blitzes. Plus, my understanding is blitzing out of quarters is much more difficult than it was in the defensive scheme. It's still a 3-3-5, but they changed the back end on how we do things. And my understanding is it's harder to blitz out of what we're doing now than it was that last year. So conservative, I think they're still trying to figure out what they're doing on defense. I'd say that, I want to say that, Purdue running the ball plays right into our plan for the defense. But then Illinois came and beat the shit out of us and ran all over this. So I don't know. Maybe Purdue will have some luck running the ball against us.
Well, we have to have something. I mean, at some point we have to, I'm not saying that it's going to be good, but it's better than the passing option.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
What if you get those defense, 2 Georgia players to play? Then it might look differently, huh?
Yeah, well, like if Jamal Edrin, who is our big pickup in the portal from Florida Atlantic last year, he started last year. He was supposed to be our top wide receiver, blew his knee out in camp, missed all of last year, and then he came back, was supposed to be our top receiver this year, was our top receiver against Indiana State, got hurt midway through the Notre Dame game, missed Oregon State, And so who knows if we're going to see him against Nebraska. Ryan Walters, I think, must have like dug up something in Colorado or Missouri and brought it with him, some sort of curse or an amulet or something, because he's had the absolute worst luck of running into just like an awful, awful schedule, and he can't keep his guys healthy, and like he's gonna lose his job sooner rather than later. I feel like he might be one of those coaches that loses his job before you really even know what kind of coach he is, just because of, I mean, things outside of his sort of control just falling completely apart.
Do you honest? Well, we'll save that, Minnie.
Mm-hmm.
The whole lose his job thing.
Okay.
Charles Hullett says, "How do those 4 Georgia players drive in West Lafayette?"
Well, I assume that they downgraded from like a Charger to like a lawnmower, so I think that'll probably it's a lot hard. It's a lot harder to go 130 in like a Honda Civic. So I think I think it's probably safer. I'm not sure what sort of car deal. I live in Athens, so I like every now and then you'll just hear a car just goes screaming around the loop around town, because where we live we can hear that. And oh, there goes another Georgia player. Last time that happened, it was actually another Georgia player. But it's wild living down here. There's a lot of it's just like a small like southern town with little narrow country roads with a lot of like Lamborghinis and Ferraris on them.
Oh, wow.
By like 20-year-olds. So.
All right. James Boardman says Mockabee has been at Purdue so long that he used to take handoffs from Bob Greasy. Maccabee is a junior, isn't he?
He is. He is. He's a walk. He's
Yeah.
a walk-on junior, I believe. But yeah, he started. You know, Brom just wouldn't recruit running backs, but he'd hand it to somebody, and eventually he'd find somebody that could run it. And so Mockabee was a walk-on under Brom, and then he stuck around under Walters. He's an interesting guy. Running style wise, he's real spastic. Like you watch him, and he's super like flaily arms and legs. His nickname's Crazy Legs, and it does get him into trouble. Last year, he was just a walking fumble because, you know, he would run for like 12 yards and then be just absolutely determined to get 12 and a half yards, and somebody would punch the ball out. And so he's gotten a little bit better. He's gotten a little bit better at that this year, of not trying to like stay up and swing the ball. But if I were Notre Dame, I would definitely be punching around that thing when he gets moving.
All right. Hold on. Carl Pence says, I am sick of Satterfield running read option over and over. It was sick to watch Illinois burn RD with the power I. I don't know if he ran any read options at all. I think he ran a lot of inside zone. He runs a lot of inside and outside zone. I mean, those are kind of standard plays, but he doesn't really run a lot of motion to, you know, pull people out of the way or stuff like that. There's not a lot of, it's just a straight up, you know, inside zone play. And Nebraska's offensive line did not get good push against Illinois' defensive line, which leads me to ask, Purdue always had a guy like, I don't know, George Kaloftis, somebody like that. Do they have one of those guys? There are 2 of those guys this season on the defensive line, just so people know.
On the defensive line. So the guy, not really. We haven't seen him yet. If they do, they took our starting rush end Jenkins from last year, who had 10 sacks and was one of the top 2 or 3 in the Big Ten. And he's playing middle linebacker now. And I think he had some crazy. I'm sorry, I was looking up the exact number. He had a huge game against. He had 16 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks against Oregon State. So if I was to watch anybody, it would probably be Purdue's middle linebacker, who they also use off the edge on pass rush downs, because he was their starting edge rusher last year.
Hydran Jenkins.
Yep.
Is that the guy? Okay, and then
That's the
Dylan
guy.
Thieneman. Dylan Thieneman is what
Dylan
is he?
Thieneman, yeah. He is a
Another defensive lineman.
he's the deep safety. If you've watched Purdue play at all, he lines up almost where you would think he is going back to field a punt. So he lines up 12 yards deeper in this defense than any other safety you will ever see. He was an All-American last year as a true freshman. Had over 100 tackles, um, 3 or 4 interceptions. It's a real sort of unique position in this Ryan Walters defense that Oregon State may or may not have exploited, depending on how exactly Purdue is trying to defend the speed option. I couldn't figure it out. It's possible that they just kept picking on Thieneman because he was so far back. But yeah, he's not been as good this year. At least he has really played poorly against Notre Dame, and that hurt significantly. So he's the guy that makes a lot of tackles. He led the team in tackles last year.
So let's see what else. What else do we need to know about Purdue, Minnie?
Well, it's important to remember how we did against them last year, right? Because I feel like Illinois came to Lincoln to prove a point because we beat them last year. And
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, do you think that has anything to do with Purdue getting ready this week?
see, I would think that would usually be the case, and like in Illinois, I'm sure that was the case. But there's so many new players on this Purdue team that it's really
Okay.
hard to to say like who really even feels like they're a Purdue player yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure the Jenkins and Thieneman who were here last year. Yanni Karloftis is playing. He was a linebacker. He's okay. But yeah, the only hope I really have for this defense is Nyland Green comes back, or not Nyland. Yeah, the Nyland Green. I'm getting two guys' names who are very similar, confused because he hasn't played yet. But our cornerback is coming back, and so Purdue's defense is sort of built around this playing man coverage on the outside, and you need those guys.
Okay.
And having, especially against Raiola, this is going to be an interesting game for your quarterback because Purdue runs a really weird coverage that messes with quarterbacks' reads because they don't see that deep safety, Tiananmen, and they'll throw it like they'll throw the outside ball like they've got man coverage, and then all of a sudden he shows up because he is just not in the normal spot that they're used to seeing a safety play, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
And so I think it'll be interesting to see if he puts some balls in jeopardy just off of bad reads. And then, Purdue's pass defense hasn't necessarily been bad. It hasn't been tested a lot. Oregon State, 104 passing yards, 10 of 18, average 5.8 yards of completion. So it's not like, Oregon State was just killing Purdue through the air. We just couldn't stop them on the ground. So I'll be interested to see sort of what this defense that's really specifically geared to stop passing attacks and to confuse quarterbacks. What that looks like finally against a team that's actually going to pass against them, because Notre Dame didn't throw the ball. Notre Dame just ran it down their throats, and Oregon State didn't throw the ball. They just ran down their throats. I think they're going to try to throw with Raiola. I'm just interested to see because Purdue's got a couple. If our corners back, we got a couple big corners out there to match up with y'all's big receivers. And so I'm really kind of excited to see that aspect of Purdue's defense and the pass rush, which you can't rush the passer if they're just handing the ball off. And Ryan Walters kind of talked about that in his press conference, where he's like, we can't, we can't rush the
Right.
passer if they're just running the ball. So we got to be able to stop the run.
You know what? I will say, I would like to see. Number one, I would have liked to see Nebraska run the ball more successfully against Illinois, but I'd like to see us run the ball against Purdue. But the problem with being an offensive coordinator is you have Dylan Royal as a quarterback, and you have a lot of shiny objects as receivers. And when you have shiny objects like Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair, you want to use them. So even though the game plan says we could run against these guys all day, you're still like, it's EA College Football 25. You're not,
I mean, you're paying these guys a lot of money. You're not paying him to hand the ball off. You're paying him to throw it down the field, and you're paying these guys to go catch it. So, I think Nebraska's going to throw it. I think it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what Purdue does as far as that back end coverage.
Fred Sacco says, don't put Purdue Pete on the field. It'll make our offensive and defensive line shrivel up like our former head coach hearing you've been served. Fred. Charles Hullett says, does Purdue have a children's hospital near their stadium? And Phil Spear says, no, only Iowa builds hospitals next to stadiums. Weirdos. Let's see what else we got in. What else we got in here that we need to go through?
Okay, well, you did want to talk about Ryan Walters possibly losing his job. I mean, you do realize that Illinois had him as their defensive coordinator just 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm
a defensive guy.
Yeah, no, I'm very aware. Like, I think every coach should get 3 years. I think the Purdue fan base is very, very concerned. They've got like Daryl Hazel PTSD.
Yes.
And so anything that starts looking like that, everybody starts like panicking. And the Notre Dame game was reason for panic because it wasn't just that Purdue was bad; they were incompetent in a lot of like ways that you shouldn't just be incompetent. And that kind of came up against Oregon State too, where we come out after halftime, we get the ball, and we can't snap it. The first play of the half, our quarterback's changing the play, and our center snaps it into his chest, and we jump on it. And then the next play, we pick up 10 yards on an end around to make that up, and our tight end holds. And so now we're back. And it's 3 out, and then we play, and then Oregon State just sits on the ball for another like 20 minutes. And it's just sort of how this team has been, where you kind of go, why? Like, some of the stuff that they do just doesn't, like, it's just bad football. It's not like they're being out athleted. They're just bad football.
Okay, we're going to take a couple more about Illinois because this game is still on our minds. Phil Spear says White was outcoached and made no discernible adjustments last game. And then Pitt Snipe Husker says White's lack of adjustments was baffling. Year 2 stage of the growth process. Again, go watch Greg and Haas, that video on YouTube where they discuss this stuff because they do talk about that. Big Red Junkies, Nebraska Football Podcast says, how does anyone prepping for Purdue not just go watch the Notre Dame game on repeat? Well, I think that would be, it would give us a over positive sense of how bad Purdue is. And I don't think they're that bad.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah,
that is fair. They're not as bad as they looked against Notre Dame, because if they were, I honestly probably just already transitioned to basketball and stopped talking about Purdue football. because
So
they were really, really bad against Notre Dame. Look at the Oregon State game if you want to have a
Okay.
better idea of what Purdue looks like.
all right, do it. I tell you what, we're an hour and 10 minutes into this. Do we need to know anything else about Purdue? Because I'll probably let you go, and then we'll spend a little bit more time getting the Illinois game out of our system because people like keep bringing up
Purge.
comments about it.
You just got to purge. Sometimes you just got to purge that out your system.
You do. That's what this show is usually for, is me screaming a lot. Everybody else goes, oh, thank God that somebody else is angry. And then,
beating the bricks off of Purdue is a good way to apparently relieve some tension. So I feel like Notre Dame achieved that. And so, hey, y'all have an opportunity. The same opportunity Notre Dame had is to just feel better about yourself by obliterating the poor Boilermakers.
Yes.
so
Oh my goodness.
do you want to do a prediction?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say sure. I'm gonna say Purdue actually shows up in this one, and this game ends up something like 28-17.
Okay.
No,
Nebraska or Purdue?
Nebraska. 2017 Nebraska. But I think Purdue makes you work for it a little more than maybe some people think you're gonna have to work for it. But eventually they run out of gas in the second half, and y'all put up some big passing plays and take care of business.
Okay. Phil Spears says Drew's a cool character. How about that? Charles Hullett, if you needed self-esteem, that's what we're here for.
See, the good thing about me is I never need self-esteem. This is actually bad for me.
At least he's honest.
It's September. It's September. Basketball season isn't that far off.
That's right. Hope springs up. See, I'm a Clemson fan too, and now that we're not playing Georgia, we look fun again. So at least there's that.
All right. Charles Hullett says, thanks for contributing, Drew. All right. I am going to let you go because, well, there you go. Fred Sacco says, wow, Drew, honest and refreshing. So when I do
what I do, I don't get paid by the athletics department. I wish I would. Then I wouldn't be so honest and or refreshing. But
I want you to remember this. So that the next time your wife is like dressing you down in front of somebody, you can say, I was told I am honest and refreshing.
Yes. Please refer to Mr. Fred Sacco's comment, honest and refreshing.
You want me to email you a screenshot?
Yes, please. Yes, that'd be great. And I'm going to turn it into my phone background, and so I can just hold it up to her.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Drew. Honest and refreshing.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a good night. Always nice to hear from you.
All right. Take care, man. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right. Back to Illinois for a bit. We'll just, anybody that wants to get something out of their system, get it out of their system in the comments. We'll take some comments and we'll just, Pitt's night Drew on the, okay. I should never look at the full comments, just the one.
No, just, yes. You
okay.
Sidetracked. Easy.
Oh. I have to. Kaylee Bartels. Well, it's, did I say I had a Botox treatment and this is just, I didn't say that publicly, did I?
No, you haven't.
I had a Botox treatment today. It doesn't help with the looks, but it does help with the migraine. So I get 32 shots in my head, and it's not, what's pleasant about it is it does its jobs and it controls my headache, but it's also very, it's nasty. It's just planning out freaking nasty. Anyway, Kaylee Bartels says, I know everyone is talking about the stale defense, but we gave up 60 yards on 3 punt returns and 59 yards on 3 kick returns. Got to clean that up moving forward, or we'll give everyone a chance. This is certainly true. In fact, I did make a note of it somewhere in the 83. There it is. Brian Bashini is like the best tackler on our punt return teams.
Isn't that amazing? He goes after it.
He does, but that should not be happening. So I I have seen a
He's
lot of
also a
people say that
senior.
Ed Foley needs to go and, all this stuff, but
Oh, we
I don't
got
know.
somebody today. We got the,
Brett Maurer. Brett
yeah,
Maurer.
the
Yeah.
kicking guy to help out. So that'll be good. Get
I
another.
think somebody said he'd been around for a while. They're just acting like he
Mhm.
just got hired. So, okay. Never
Interesting.
mind me says I'm late, make the field goal, and we win with no overtime. We're effing cursed. That maybe that is, that's a counterpoint to all my screaming earlier. And perhaps that's true. I guess that's the opposite side of what I'm screaming about. So we're effing cursed.
Yeah, I
We
mean, it's
still
that
haven't found
easy.
that.
It's true. We
Tiger
would have just
Shark
made that
Diver
field goal.
says
Mhm.
Brian Bashini and Santino Panico are Italian stallions. Do you know who Santino Panico is?
No, but I know the Italian Stallions reference. Isn't that Rocky?
Yes. Santino Panico was a guy who was a punt returner under Bill Callahan, and all he ever got to do was catch the ball. I think they told him he couldn't
Oh.
actually return punts, and I mean he was the best punt catcher we ever had, but they never let him return anything at all. So I don't know. It was just really stupid back then.
Oh.
Tiger Shark Diver, if all else fails, John and Minnie can donate their hair for nil. Only if I'm making millions for the football team or basketball team or somebody.
I would. Jeez, John, you're a little stingy. Come on. All for the cause.
I would bring up one more thing. And, I've seen a lot of people say, we're not going to win many more games and all this stuff. And I think this is an example of what I'm going to call what I had a term for it. Now I've completely forgot because I'm getting worn out. It's like, you look at your own family, broken family syndrome. That's what I'm going to call it. We'll come up with something better. Broken family syndrome. This is what happens when you look at your own family and you think your own family is dysfunctional. Uncle Larry gets drunk every Thanksgiving and screws up Thanksgiving, and dad does stuff at Christmas that everybody hates. And oh my God, my whole family is just a derailed mess and dysfunctional and shit. And what you do when you do that is you don't realize that just about every other family out there in the world has the same problems. And how that relates to football, because it does relate to football, is, if you look around, there's a lot of other teams going through the same problems we have, or at least, some more than we have. If you look up Scary Alvarez on YouTube, he's on YouTube now.
Mm-hmm.
He put out a podcast talking about how Wisconsin is, they're not sure they're even going to get to a bowl game this year because they are not doing well at Wisconsin. Indiana is scoring lights out. Purdue's having issues. Who else is in our future?
Oh,
USC got beat by
wait.
Michigan.
Well, was it imposter syndrome? Is that what you're talking about?
No,
Linda Wilkins
no,
wants to know.
I don't think so.
Sorry.
It's
We're
just something
trying to
I'm making
help
up.
with the broken family syndrome.
Well, I just call it that because, it's just one of those things that comes out of my head.
It sounds like this. What Phil Spears says, Iowa will run us out of the stadium if things don't improve. Like that? It's like
yeah,
gloom
Iowa
and
has their own
doom.
issues. Iowa's defense is not the typical Iowa shutdown defense that they have been in the past. They have some issues. Their offense is better than it's been, but it's not like it's a scoring machine, so
Yeah.
everybody has issues. Everybody except like the Ohio States and the Texas. God, it hurts to say that. Everybody has some issues. Sorry, I was looking at the comments again.
Okay.
Carl Pence says, John, how was it not targeting when Illinois hit our receiver 2 times in the head going out of bounds? Was that in overtime?
Okay. 2 times?
I think our guy was on the sideline and he get hit twice late in the game.
Yes. Yes, he did. Absolutely, he did. And yeah, no, that should have been called. But some of them you get, some of them you don't.
You don't, and I put it this way. We were at 3rd and 42 on that play, weren't we?
Yes.
Okay, I think if you're an official, you're not calling that because you're kind of like, I'm not bailing these people out at 3rd and 42. If that was reversed and they called that, we would be so pissed off we'd start burning stuff down. I think sometimes I've mentioned this before when we talked about the officials of the Colorado game. Officials throw way too many flags now. They should just, if they think something's on the edge, just don't call the damn thing. And listen, the officiating is shit all around. It really is. It's like there's some kind of contest between all of these officials across all the conferences to say, let's see who can do the shittiest job and still maintain our position. You know what I mean? It just, like the 4th down play that Illinois went for, and they got the 1st down. They got, MJ Sherman got a personal foul called against him for punching the ball, which was really stupid. But on the other hand, the spot they gave them was like, it's Christmas time on Friday night for Illinois on that one. I guess, okay, here's another one. There it was. Joe Liliakis, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Not to mention a missed taunting call after the missed field goal. That should have been called because that's just shit. It's just shitty. That's the kind of stuff that you don't allow in football. You can go celebrate with your teammates, but you don't be poking a guy,
that was horrible.
It was pretty shitty.
Do they ever just fine a team for something like that's been missed? No. I mean, it should happen. Well, because maybe that is ridiculous.
Maybe in the new world they will, but then you're finding in a university. I'm sure there's some kind of. James Borden says, John, preach. People think the officials were biased. They miss calls against both teams. Nationally, it's been terrible this year. I have a hard time believing they're just biased. I just think that they're not good, and they do miss a lot of stuff. And a lot of times they just, I don't know what, I would love to know what's going through their heads. Mic up of an official for a game, for God's sakes. When they all come together and confer on something, and maybe they have to like pull one guy along, because whenever you get a group of your friends together, there's always that one lagger guy. You got to like help him keep his job, help him pay his mortgage, that kind of shit. Maybe officiating crews have the same problem, where there's always one guy. It's like, Larry, that wasn't even your thing to call. What the hell is wrong with you? Maybe they should mic them up.
Everybody has a Larry.
Corby Cobus, face mask was clearly missed. It was. Refs always balance out games at different points, just the nature of the game. A lot of our wounds were self-inflicted, which they were. And I think that people go back to the Michigan game from 2000. What year is this?
This is
2023, right? Last year. Yep. Everybody remembers the Michigan game.
Horrible.
They remember us playing Michigan. I think the score is 49-10. I mean, it was terrible. You watched a Nebraska team that basically walked around on the field and didn't really give a shit about anything. What I'm hoping is that this Illinois game is the last year's Michigan game, where our coaches can look at the players and say, you have not accomplished a damn thing. There's no reason for you to be that cocky. There's no reason to be with all the swagger. You got that look on your face like you're gonna scold me.
You know why, John?
Why?
Because we're 3-1, and if we go 3-1 in the next 4 games, I'll be happy.
Well, I'll be happy too.
Okay, good. That's all it took right there.
But I think that when you're looking at the defense did play bad, they did make stupid mistakes. There were a lot of just dumb penalties. Maybe they did that for the Illinois game, and as we go forward, they'll get that out of their system. Illinois is favored, or Penn State is favored over Illinois. It's a lot. It's a lot more than I thought it would be. And I think that, Illinois has a good chance of knocking off Penn State, but, maybe we'll see what happens this next weekend.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
It would.
Wow. Ooh.
You know what? I have a work colleague I work with all the time. I've mentioned this. He's a Penn State guy. And
Yes.
if Illinois knocks them off, I could just make so much fun of him because he's going to be making fun of me, that bastard. Aaron Keene, I think how we play the next game will tell us a hell of a lot about what kind of team we have. I agree with that comment. That's a good comment. Okay.
John, you got to sit up because I look like I'm like super tall. And
I'm
we
doing
all
the
know
crank.
you are way taller than me.
I'm doing the old man thing.
Yeah. Don't be decrepit. Come on, stand up.
Okay, fine. I've moved around so much, I'm getting hot. All right. Is there
You
anything
are
else?
wearing a robe.
Is there anything else that we need to cover?
No, okay. No, I don't think so. Oh, yeah. How about a score prediction
Oh,
for
for Purdue?
Drew's crummy team?
You know what? I'll go 35-10, Nebraska.
Okay. I'm writing it down. Good one. All right. How do you feel, John? Did you get it out of your system? Can
Yeah.
we move on?
Can we move on to what are we moving on to? Purdue?
Well, we're getting ready for Purdue.
Okay.
Guys will be traveling on Thursday, right? Or Friday. They travel Friday.
I will say that, well, you know what? Real quick, volleyball. They kicked the shit out of Louisville. You know, I was at my brother's house Sunday and they were having a pizza party and people were like, oh God, we can't get the volleyball game. Oh my God, they're freaking out. And it was to the point there was going to be a riot till I figured out how to screen share from my phone to his TV. I thought it was, you know, going to be turned into some kind of like, let's beat up Jim, my brother kind of thing. And it didn't. Thank God. I saved his life. That's what I did. Wow, there's a lot of predictions here. Mondale 31-17. Greg asked John, "Are you properly therapized?" You know, I'm working on it. I'm working on. I just don't have to think about I never kneel on the ball. I don't care where you're at on the field.
I agree.
You have plays for every situation in life. But if you don't, then you've screwed up. Just don't. 26 seconds. You got 26 seconds to score and win the game. There you go. Kaylee Bartels says Nebraska is angry. I'm gonna disrobe. That's what I'm gonna do.
Ooh, dun, 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 dun.
Nebraska
All kinds
is
of
angry.
things happen here.
The loss was the wake-up call some of the players needed. 31-13. Husker Bob says 26-24 Huskers. Greg Sacco says 35 because we can't kick field goals. Purdue 17. Corby Cobus 21-10. Nebraska, not pretty, but gets the job done. Phil Spear 28-10. Charles Hullett says the volleyball team moved up to number 2. I heard. Yes, they did. They really beat the shit out of Louisville. It was a really nice game to watch. Justin Rogge, Huskers 31, Purdue 13. Tiger Shark Diver says we got a Colorado fan call him mini hot. Well, awkward silence.
I guess we're doing scores. Okay.
Well, it was just in there. I clicked on it. Wait. Okay. Didn't you? Isn't that one of the? Forget it. We're moving on. David Matney says 28-24 because we can't kick a field goal. Did I get Carl Pence here 70-3?
I don't think so.
Charles
70-3. Wow.
Charles Pinster says Nebraska 27, Purdue 26. There you go. Carl Pence says many should dye our hair red for our Huskers. Never mind me, 45-17. You're not going to dye your hair red?
Actually, I will when we make it to a bowl game.
I like
John,
it.
You need to consider that too. At least a red streak.
Maybe I will. Red streaks. Tiger Shark Diver says 42-8. We're at an hour and a half.
Okay.
All right. I think that's good. James Boardman says he'll
John.
give his prediction on Thursday. Yes.
Okay. And so you're not feeling left out. Pit Snipe Husker says John's hot.
Well, I disrobed.
No, I don't think that's what he meant.
Okay. Andy Ketterson will be having his show tomorrow night. Thursday night is Greg and Minnie.
Mhm.
And, we just have a lot going on YouTube now. So there you go. Watch our stuff. Leave comments. Please like this video. I don't know. What else do we have, Minnie?
That's what we have. Oh, make sure you go to cobbycorn.com. Get some shirts and stickers and all kinds of fun things.
Yeah,
Is
fun things because
is the
Christmas is coming.
RTFB? Yeah, is that
It's
still
on
on
there.
there?
It is.
RTFB? Okay.
So is Secure Your Balls,
Yeah.
which, we've done a
good
good
one.
job of that. I've seen some people where they said we haven't improved at all since last year. Well, you know what? Our balls are much more secure than they were last year. I think that's a huge improvement. There you go. And
All right, there you go.
oh my God, there's a guy like hitting on you in the comment section. That's a good idea for us to just go now. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it. And this is one of these shows where I just screamed because I had to get it out of my system. I think it's still going to be a fun football season. We have Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
We now have his brother committed today. I don't know what that means, but we're going to have a Raiolas for a while. And Minnie doesn't have to stop stalking. She could stalk for years to come. That's it. Good night. Thank you for Minnie for joining me and helping out. Take care of you all. And there you go. Go Big Red. There's something.
Go Big
Goodbye.
Red.